Funny enough, when we used to travel or speak or do any of these types of things, it was all a lot about insurance or sales or process.
In this episode, Michael and I sit down with top agent Bryan Smith. Now, this is going to be a little bit different of an episode. We're going to be chatting about ego. We're going to be chatting about success. And if your soul needs an overhaul, if you need something to just feel different and have a different perspective in your agency and in your career, this episode is for you. I can't wait to hear what you think about it.
I started in 2010.
Okay.
So, yeah, they told me the other day it's been 15 years. That's weird. So I didn't realize.
That's
I don't
awesome,
keep
man.
up with all of the plates and trophies and whatnot anymore, so I don't keep up with their dates either. But 15 years,
Yeah.
I guess it is. Funny enough, when we used to travel or speak or do any of these types of things, it was all a lot about insurance or sales or process. But these days, it's got a lot more of a spiritual spin to it. I had a massive change in my life about 4 years ago after being, I don't know, I wasn't the worst guy on the planet, but I grew up very traditional Christian world, and that became really good for business. And over the years, in an inauthentic, non-transparent way, I created lots of influence and relationships throughout the world based upon a fake person. And about 3.5 years ago or so, some really crazy stuff happened in my life personally, which will likely be picked up by Netflix at some point. But that's a joke, by the way. I hope Netflix does not call
I was like, shit, that's cool, man.
Call it
Well,
out. I'm all about that.
It's very, very crazy. But when I was married. I'm also pretty unfiltered, so if you guys need to edit. But I was married for 10 years and really good friends with my ex-wife at this stage. But just didn't do it right, We got married kind of young, didn't have framework. Both parents were divorced. We didn't know how to fix it. I was chasing empires and money and recognition, and it just didn't work, so we get divorced. And for men, a lot of us go into this phase to where, like, if all the other things are good in life, maybe their finances are good, or you have cars, you have certain things, but the very main thing, which is the internal, goes unchecked. And a lot of people like to throw in the term narcissist. I kind of get sick of hearing that term because I think there's fewer narcissists than there are just hurt people. Narcissism is a different level, but for some reason, every time somebody mistreats somebody or puts themselves first, they're a narcissist. And it's like, well, that's not exactly how that works. But I do think that we all have tendencies to operate in narcissistic ways. And I got to that place after my divorce, very lonely and just looking everywhere. And you end up in relationships that maybe weren't the right place or the right time. I don't know that the people that came into my life had any intentions. I didn't have bad intentions. We just weren't focused and paying attention, and spiritually we 100% weren't where we needed to be. And I ended up having a baby. That's legacy. Had him for 4 years. And throughout that divorce and then remarriage time, coming with the baby coming, I just still wasn't the person I needed to be. And about 1.5 years into that, I started a journey where I had been a Christian, I guess, my whole life, but I had never really done the things that needed to happen as a true Christian who really, really believed in God the Father. And I had to become extremely humble in multiple ways, which was not the design of my personality. And through that process, I started getting what has become now 5 prophetic words from different people, states, and countries that all match, that were all the very same. And for me, as a person who grew up in a church and thought, I think God's real, now I'm in a position to be able to say, He's 100% real. Recently watched a blind woman right in front of my face see the earth for the very first time. I smoke cigars, which some people are challenged with. They're like, is that a Christian thing to do? And I'm like, I don't know that God really cares about cigars, and I hope He doesn't care about tattoos. I know they're mentioned in the Bible a little bit, but I think they've been taken out of context. But we're sitting there smoking a cigar the other day, a really good buddy of mine who came into my life through this process. See, I had to cut and prune relationships that weren't of that they shouldn't be there. And through this prophecy, the Lord was like, you're going to lose some relationships, this influence that you've built over the years, whereas we're talking about presidents, kings, oil kings, anyone and everyone, athletic, all the things that you would think in the world that were good weren't for me. It was fake. It was this, I want to walk in a room and be seen and be cool, and the focus is on me. And over the course of years, you build this very inauthentic person. But guess what? It's cool for a couple of hours for all your friends to see, but then you go home lonely. And I had to really pursue him. Well, through that, I had to prune different friendships that weren't going to fit inside of what his unique calling would be for me specifically. And through that, a couple of guys that were actually prophetically given to me have wandered into my life, which is, again, just magic. It's some kind of crazy magic. But we're sitting here smoking cigars the other day in a little private spot in Tulsa. It's a kind of a membership-based place. And a guy comes in and sits down. We didn't see him. I guess we were over getting a cigar or something was going on. But when we come back, he's sitting in our little area. So we just sit down. And we noticed a big group of people had come in. This guy's wife's company, a bunch of attorneys, were having their holiday party or their Christmas party. That's what I call it. They call it holiday party. I don't know what that is. And so instantly I'm like, well, dude, why aren't you hanging out with them? And he says, well, I'm only here because I'm kind of just need to be seen but not heard. My wife doesn't think she can have the fun if I'm here, so I'm kind of just here, but I'm not a part of their crew. And I said, well, that's no problem, dude. You can sit here. And so Kellen and I are digging in because we're working on this same kind of a podcast, which is really cool that you guys have this like super professional thing going. I built this room recently. I had some come on in my office, so this is actually a podcast room I'm in, and the podcast is called Get Canceled, and it's going to be a deep dive into how people live, relationships, business, all kinds of stuff. But the premise is you feel like you're called to do this or that other thing that you're very passionate about, but if you're not getting canceled, I'm not really sure how hard you're really going after what those things are. So it's going to be this kind of unveiling of kind of uncomfortable truths, I guess I would say. And so I'm glad I have the room now because it's better than sitting in my office. And so I'm looking at this guy though, and something in my spirit is off. And I say, hey guy, I'm going to be one of the weirder guys you've ever met, but I'm not afraid to say something inside of me spiritually says something's wrong with you, and it's your physical body. And, super passionate, and so I get emotional. But this guy looks at me, and he says, didn't you see me walk in here? And I said, no, we were over there. We just noticed when we came back. And he said, yeah, I had 2 strokes in the last couple months. I can barely walk. And so, sure enough, I widen my view, and I see his cane. And sure enough, this cat had stumbled in here. He couldn't hardly walk. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional with you guys. Sorry about that.
No apologies.
I'm usually more like, but I've gotten soft in this old age again. And so I tell this guy, hey, man, do you care if we just pray for you? Right here. And he goes, in front of all these people? And I said, that's even better. I said, we would love for your wife and her friends to get to kind of see this, if you know. And so they're doing their own thing. They're not really paying attention. We pray for this guy, and he gets up and walks out of there. Normal. No cane. No problems. And so, as you can kind of tell, over the last couple of years, the things that I used to care about, I still kind of do. I mean, you guys know this world. They want us to check in here and there and do certain things. I think a lot of it's really out of line. The other business world I live in functions much smoother, and easier. But in my other business world, everyone that's in it has a lot of experience and has done a lot of it. And I believe in the other world, that's spotty at best, based upon experience and what it really takes to get the job done, And so, but nonetheless, my world took a massive shift, and I still want my people here to have good opportunities. And we spend a lot of time on sales and process and promotion, which is what I believe we actually are. Is we're more promoters than we are anything, because the insurance salesmen don't do as well. But we just try to promote and do everything we can to be remembered. My website's weird. A lot of agents in Oklahoma have the same style of website as me because I did a lot of the trainings back then. But my name being Bryan Smith, everyone on the planet's named that, especially from like 1978 to 84. Brian, Michael, Zach, those are the names. I mean, there were no other available names, clearly. So they just spelled them different, right? So there's B-R-Y, B-R-I, so the moms got creative. There's Zach, Z-A-C, Z-A-C-H, Z-A-C-K.
Yeah.
There's Mike or Michael, spelled 47 different ways. And so that's all they had available, and so that's why my kids have weird names. But I've noticed that I couldn't get my website when we started that training stuff with John Michelli, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't get Bryan Smith. This guy in Europe owns it. He wants all this money for it, and he doesn't even have a business. The guy's just hoarding the websites. And I figure out, okay, I want an action, and so I came up with Call Bryan Smith. And to this day, we have dedicated phone lines for people that move here for Call Bryan Smith. They might call to ask us where to get tires, go to movies, go to church. It's become this whole promotional line with the hoodies. And so they might even buy insurance from us, but they call Bryan Smith for whatever it is. So that's become kind of our tagline. So if you look at Oklahoma websites for agents, there's about 40 of them that's call whoever. Call Daniel Parker, call Mike Thompson.
It's like, just
Bobby
call Saul.
Yeah.
Call all of them. And so we do like to focus a lot in the community, though. I'm involved with multiple nonprofits, especially around law enforcement, that we believe in. I'm the chairman of the OSBI board, which is, you guys probably have one too. It's kind of like the state's FBI. FBI is federal, and then the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation would be like the state's version of that. They assist law enforcement in smaller areas, or if something gets out of hand and they want to pull the local law enforcement out of it due to potential conflicts or fraud or whatever, corruption, the OSBI comes in. So we do that, and fit first responders, and we've got the Tulsa Dream Center, and then our newest nonprofit is called 1440promise.org, which is a prison ministry where we go in and we have access to inmates, and they go through an application interview process with us, and they get chosen, about 20 per. And it's an entrepreneurial class. They go through a whole curriculum, but just talking with you guys now for 20 minutes, you can only imagine that that's not all that we talk about. These men are, a lot of them have gone through some healing and definitely in a remorseful state for what's taken place in their life. But the crazy part about our system is that we got to let these people out, right? But we let them out worse or the same as they were.
Yep.
What's the point of that? So we've got to go in and start, just like anybody, to start to try to work and help and give people purpose, or help them find it, or redesign it, or create it even. And so that's what 1440 Promise is we go in and we just get very surgical and intentional with these men about what are they going to do after, and how are they going to make it the rest of the time. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what I'm usually up to. And cars.
I love it.
I like cars.
Bryan, I want to get into this because you've already covered a lot of things, and you're talking about influence. And I know that there are a lot of insurance agents that want to make a difference, that want to leave a legacy, that want to make impact. Talk a little bit about, you said you had to drop your network and regain a new network. You really had to look at your environment. You were being called to that. I'm curious what that process looks like now and what that process looked like at the time.
Well, and that's hard for me because relationships, friends, social was a currency to me. And it filled a lot of the void for what I should have been doing. But I leaned really hard into that just love, that recognition. And so when you look at personalities, I was always really good at finding people, because I'm a good friend, I'm going to be loyal to you, I'm going to do all the things, but I was really good at finding people that maybe saw themselves as a little bit less than me, either based on some kind of hierarchy that men have. Mike, you might understand, you know how when we walk into a room, whether healthy or not, men, we size each other up. So that's not just a statement. We really do that. And it's based on multiple categories. From what we feel coming out of this person from an alpha position, also maybe a financial position. And all men do this. It's just some of us are sicker than others with it. And it's what we base our confidence on based upon right now in that room. Where do we land? And I was really good at having a presence. When I come into a room, you kind of know I'm there, and I thought I was cooler than I was. And I built these relationships of people that were just right under what they might see me as their leader, kind of. Not in a cult way, but like, I like that. I like those colors. I like that promotion. I want to be a part of that. I want to be invited to his stuff. Maybe I can meet new customers or whatever. And over the years, that grows into this big social circle of people that kind of look to you as the person that's a hair more successful than everyone else. Well, then you start to live in such a way that doesn't glorify God at all. But it becomes this place that's very attractive to people that haven't yet found their heart position either. And so whether they're cheating on their wives, or not even the big time cheating, just the secretive type of stuff, or they're not handling their business correctly, or they're not handling their kids correctly, or they don't know how to do all that. Maybe they're just literally chasing what all the Instagram post says, the cool house and the cars and all this kind of stuff. They end up underneath that fold. And so through that prophetic word, 5 times I received this message that the Lord is going to take me through the eye of the needle. And biblically, the eye of the needle is this. It's like this, if you look at the examples of it, literally nothing can hang on to you because of the hole is just perfectly built. And as you kind of picture going through it, anything that could be strapped onto you that's not of him is going to be just taken off. And so through that eye of the needle, what's funny is this prophetic word actually mentioned relationships to me that I was going to have to prune off of my life and begin to take off. And for people that you don't know at all to be able to tell you about relationships of people they don't know and shouldn't, that right there will shake you just right there. Because how do you know this? And so what happens is, the Lord, for me, it wasn't so much a business thing to answer the question, because the people I had positioned around me weren't going to really impact my business so much. They impacted my ego. They increased that currency, that fake kind of recognition that I could receive that was a drug. I've been asked a lot of times about drugs or alcohol or any of the crazier stuff, not to get too weird on your podcast, but like men deal with this stuff. So porn, different addictions that grab onto people, those haven't necessarily been my thing. I like to smoke cigars. I have some drinks here and there. My drug of choice was recognition. I wanted the attention. I will choose that over anything you put in front of me. When I speak to men these days, we've got a program one of my good buddies here started in Oklahoma called Band of Brothers. Thousands of men from all walks of life to doing it really good to right out of a divorce or prison come into Band of Brothers and they're accepted, but they got to hear the hard stuff. And this is where I'll talk about, there has been many times in my life to where you could put a very attractive person or a business opportunity or whatever in front of me, and I'm more interested 100% in the drug of attention and recognition from people. I'll choose that over all of it. And so going through that process of the network, I 100% had to prune off, cut off relationships that did create opportunities for me. But as a part of that prophecy, the Lord told me, I'm going to bring replacement. I'm going to bring what will fill that void. And so why that's emotional to me is because I had put so much weight in those relationships around me. I was more interested in those relationships than even like my family dynamic, because that's what fed that ego. And so it's been this kind of like faith and trust situation for me, to be honest. I'll tell you, whether it's because the company's raising prices or because we're getting more customers, I'm not sure which one it is. We've never been better from that standpoint. I don't care about the awards anymore. I think we won all of them. We have all their rings and all their trophies and all their plaques. And what I found at the end of that, especially for you, Mike, is nothing. Nothing. I got nothing from any of that. I got nothing from $500,000 scorecard bonuses. I got nothing from, I think I have as many rings as Tom Brady has, which is nothing. Because, whatever this is, great company, love it, so grateful, but you get forgotten so fast. I mean, there's so many more new people now trying to do all those same things. And the unfortunate part is there's nothing in it. There's no substance there. Until you change your heart position, there's absolutely nothing wrong with people wanting to be successful and wanting to get the job done. But if you're exchanging your heart position, your influence, if you're exchanging your purpose for it, it's going to end with nothing. And the money all spends the same. It just disappears. I don't know about y'all's money. Mine just disappears. I don't even know what happens to it anymore. So I just feel like I'll kind of end that little question with, I don't believe in all this people feel like they were called to do certain things stuff. I believe God equipped us to do, number one, is belief and surrender to Him. Number two, love your neighbor. That's what we're here for. So we're here to believe in Him, and then we're here to spread that. Everything else is our jobs. My mom, I love my mom. She's a great mom, but she'll tell you she just knows the Lord put her on earth to be a teacher. Forget the fact that her mom was a teacher and her mom was a teacher. She wasn't exposed to it at all constantly her whole life. She just knows it, though. And it's like, Mom, God designed you to do all kinds of special things. And to speak into these kids was just a part of it. But those kids could have been 30-year-old people at a company you worked for.
Yep.
That's the design. That's the purpose. God called me to be a dentist. How? 2,000 years ago, there were no dentists. So I believe God has called us to do those other things. The trade that in which we get into, that has nothing to do with it. That's an alignment to the platform and the people that He puts around us. I mean, God cares so much about the marketplace, and He cares about the marketplace because a lot of the marketplace is not at church. And so the church has its thing. Pastors have their thing, but a lot of the people that we're going to meet out here, that you guys are going to meet doing your podcast and doing the consultations and the business that you do, are going to be people that have never been to a church. And so someone, married couple, maybe learning how to get it done, they're going to learn from you. They're not going to learn from the church they don't go to or that they'll never pay attention to. So I just kind of take this look now that really everywhere I'm at, every human I'm talking to needs to hear the good stuff. Because I might not get to talk to them anymore. And a lot of people may not talk about porn addictions or about the weird stuff they're dealing with in the dark. And I'm willing to do it because, my goodness, guys, I don't know what must be my emotions are today, but this guy at the cigar place the other day, no one's ever talked to him about being healed. So he's crippled until someone tells this guy, you don't have to be that way. You don't have to, you don't have to be the result of strokes, right? And you better bet that a guy that gets healed in a cigar room wants to know exactly who in the world we're talking about now. And so that's where the real change begins. And so that's what we spend most of our time doing now. And we still get to do business here, but the whole aspect of how I approach my days has changed now. The people around me, I guess I forgot to mention the Call Bryan Smith player of the game thing. About 6 or 7 years ago, I thought it would be a good promotional idea to do like footballs. I didn't create that idea. A lot of people around the country do the game ball thing. Well, mine turned into something very different. We got into all the bigger high schools because of our promotion. And now we do football, baseball, we do college basketball and baseball. Girls wrestling is off the charts. Millions of views every year now on our Call Bryan Smith Player of the Game hoodies or balls or whatever we do. But that part's not even why we do it. I get asked to speak to these kids that they don't let anybody in these schools, but they let the weird insurance guy in. And we personally pray for, speak into multiple teenagers a week. I have these kids will come up to us at practice and say, hey, you know, my mom has cancer. Can we pray for her? We get all kinds of messages from kids and coaches alike. And so this thing that a lot of other people aren't allowed to do for whatever the public schools problems are, they don't ever ask me anything. And it's the very same people that block the motivational speakers or the youth pastors from coming in. They let us come in, and I'm doing the same thing. So we do that a lot too. That's a lot of purpose for us, is Call Bryan Smith Player of the Game. So I can't believe I forgot about that.
That's cool, man.
Bryan,
Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that you were bringing this up because I agree so much. I think our purpose here, I think we're all children of God, and I think that our purpose here is to love each other. And I believe that guardian angels come in the form of strangers. And I think sometimes we need to hear those little messages to remind us to keep going, to keep our heart open, to keep our eyes focused on a higher purpose. So I love that you're sharing this, and I love that we're having this conversation because in the insurance industry, the thing that I've always struggled with is the ego. And there's so much ego and posturing. And for me, when we drop that and we let our soul shine and we share the struggles that we're going through, that's how we actually heal, is when we start talking about the things that happen in the dark and we let some light in. Like, we're all trying to grab more light. So I appreciate you having this conversation. I appreciate you getting emotional and really opening this door, because in this space, there's a lot of different ways that you can define success. And external validation, I have found, always makes me feel empty. I always come up short when I look outward for validation, and I look outward for approval, and I look outward for success, instead of going to what do I know to be true? What do I know to be my truth? God, the love, the spirit, the purpose, the mission, all of that. So,
And the insurance industry is they're great at getting you to, if you're recognition driven, like you're talking about, like I was. They do a really great job of playing into that ego role of recognizing you, and I can't even imagine what you went through 4 years ago. I know that just the recognition piece, and we talked about this a little bit before the podcast started, Bryan. You asked, like, when did we decide to pursue the coaching and stuff full time and leave the agency? The little piece you're talking about, man, that held me back for 2 years because I was worried about what people are going to think of me, the new identity change I'm going to have to go through. Like, and so it's tough. But the biggest thing for anybody listening to this right now, I think, is just make sure you're doing it because you want to do it, not because of the recognition you receive by doing it.
Yeah. You've got to get the right people around you no matter what the industry. And
100%.
It's cliche, but I'm telling these men one-on-one, it's the key. It's going to make or break you. I remember, Mike, we've got some things in common with the business side. My first couple of years in, I probably was 5 years in, and so we had this big event. It was I believe it was one of those programs for like mutual funds or whatever. It was a kind of a president's club type of deal. And I'm thinking, I'm still in that mindset of like, I can't believe this is happening. This is so great, because I am grateful and very blessed, and I love what's happening from it. Although it ended up being kind of something that I do, it wasn't how I planned it. And my world went so many different ways business-wise these days, which I'm grateful for as well. But then I remember there was someone, and I won't say who just to protect everybody's identities, but this guy had done super well for multiple years, and I guess he was like king of the world with a lot of these people. And I remember meeting him and thinking, that guy's a dork. What are we missing here? What's the problem? And of course, I'm not the greatest guy in the world either. My ego was just going nuts back then. But this guy, we're at an event, and this guy decides to make fun of my clothes. He made fun of my jeans. So if you remember, it would have been about 10 years ago. You remember those rock revival jeans? Surely you guys do.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't wear them anymore, and it was a short thing, but
Short phase.
it was a phase. But they had like a lot of stuff on the butt, you know.
Yeah.
They were all like bedazzled and crap.
Yep.
Well, this guy makes fun of my jeans in front of all these people, and I thought, how old are we? Like, you're making fun of my jeans, bro? So, of course, the very mature person that I am, I popped back and I said, are you making fun of me because they don't make your size in these jeans? Because he was a little healthy, you know. And so he's just shut down. And here's why. Because bullies shut up when people get in their face. And he doesn't like it, and he doesn't have anyone around him willing to speak truth to him. And he had never had anybody, even though the way I was doing it was wrong. Bullies immediately stop when someone stops them or gets in their face. And no one ever questioned this guy ever, because he's surrounded by people that are just full of the system and the process and weren't questioning anything else around it. 1 hour, come to find out from someone I have a ton of respect for, that would reside in North Texas. And if I said his name, you guys would know his name 100%, but he's a mayor. I'll say that. So Mike, I mean, hopefully you know who I'm talking about. A beautiful human being comes up and says, ignore that guy. He's mad because you broke a record that he had. That was it. That was it. I had no clue. I had no clue what was going on. I wasn't in the inner circle of whatever. And over the course of the next couple of years, maybe I was brought into it, but I was already working on my own fake circle in our world in the way of politics or different types of companies. You know, we do the book stuff. You know, the book that really went off was Breaking Conformity. And why I still like that book is because it really addresses a lot of the things we're talking about right now, but at a place where my heart position was wrong. So it's wild how when God's working a plan, that you can actually be doing things that don't line up with who you are at the time, that now later come out and begin to serve exactly what he's trying to do. And so Breaking Conformity has gone nuts over the last couple of years, just because it's this book I call sales myths, but they apply everywhere in life. But if you guys have heard like a myth like, if I can do it, anybody can. Have you heard that?
Oh, yeah.
That's bullcrap. That's not real. The reason why that is because we're all just designed differently with different goals, capacity, and abilities to learn. So just because I can do it doesn't mean you can, and vice versa. That's a phrase that leaders, managers, or production owner people tell people to get like a temporary burst out of them, you know. So it's
but
not
my
real.
question, because I do believe that seeing proof of it is for us a door to abundance. So seeing it really opens up the possibility that if this person can do it, I'm capable of it too. And now I would agree with you that our versions will be different because we are completely different people with different spirits and different souls. But I do believe in the collective. I do believe that we are all children from the same, however you identify your higher power. So I do think that there, at least my opinion, I do think that there's truth in seeing somebody do something and having that door of abundance being opened of, oh, there's possibility here. I think that's proof, and I think we need that.
But what you're talking about is mentorship.
Yeah.
You're talking about mentorship and accountability. I'm talking about the sales manager from the other side of an email pumping out emails saying so-and-so did it, you can too. No connection, no accountability, no mentorship.
Yeah.
Just trying to boost just anything I can get from you from a non-foundational space to make you get one more application or whatever. You know, I'll give you the little short story on where I came up with that myth. Is we speak a lot with big real estate companies, their big sales meetings or whatever, and for some reason that's blended those relationships. And about 6 years ago, I'm standing in front of, I don't know how many, 500 to 700 real estate agents from a really big company, and their owner is in town, and the owner is on stage giving this big speech about. Not to offend, but kind of saying a lot of the things you just said, because they're true, but with no connection, there's no substance, and so you're going to feed into the people around you, and you're going to say, I believe you can do this because you see me do it, and I'm trying to inspire you and mentor you. This person's standing with an invisible wall between the owner and all these people she doesn't even really know. And what ends up happening is, I did all this and this happened and that happened and we grew, and if I can do it, anybody can. Well, she inherited all that. It was inherited. No process, no accountability, no mentorship. And so ultimately what happened is she's given this very motivational, inspirational speech to people that there's going to be no substance to help that person that goes, I want to do that. How do I do it? Well, you can't even there's no Q&A. There's no relationship. There's no small group. And so I look at that as a myth because unless applied correctly, it's just a phrase. It's something to kind of pump you up. Another one is like failure is not an option. Failure is your first readily available option.
Yes.
And
Yes.
likely the option.
Yes.
And so I love failure is not an option because that's what people say when they're backed into a corner and they don't know what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. And that's just a really strong way of being like, I am out of things that I can do. I need you to really help me do this.
Oh, yeah.
Or we got to figure out a way to cheat. Mm-hmm. So that's what failure is not an option means. So, I like enough fish in the sea. Really? There's not enough fish in the sea. There's not enough business for all of us. If there was, we wouldn't all be trying to take the same freaking guy to drinks or dinner or cigars if there was enough. When we're touching all the same people trying to get their business, when you're sending mailers, Mike, to my people, there is not enough business out there because we're trying to get the same business. That's another myth that, it's just another way to temporarily get people back in the game for one more inning. And it's the structure that we've lived in 100%. It's a bunch of people that have really never done it, trying to figure out how to get people to do the thing they can't actually teach.
Mic drop.
No.
So you two actually believe the same thing because the one thing
language is different. But
language is different.
Yeah.
But Brian, the funny thing is so Courtney hates these little motivational sayings and shit because of exactly what you're saying. There's no substance. It's great for a shot of okay, let's do this, and it's the old saying, motivation doesn't last like habits do or whatever. But that's also you're saying exactly what you tell the conversations we have all the time.
Yes, because I think that a lot of these are phrases that we have overused and we haven't inspected them. We haven't actually looked for truth in them. And if they are true, what's the next step? I think that all of us need some sort of guidance, whether that's spiritual guidance, whether that's business guidance. I think we have to look outside of ourselves sometimes. And to your point, you were talking about you were around a lot of yes people, or if people have built this structure of yes people that constantly feed the ego. And I think that you have to have people around you that will also tell you no, that will also say that's not going to work and that's not how that works, and I will show you why. I think motivation, and I think those motivational quotes are there for a reason. I think it's like poetry. I think it's like music. I think there are moments when you grab it and you need to feel it. But I think for the most part, we need practical application, and then we need to actually do it ourselves and feel what it feels like in our body. I think our bodies do an amazing job of telling us when things are out of alignment. I think we're acting not out of our heart and not out of our highest good. I think we know it. I think we can feel ooh, this feels a little off. And I think trusting that is incredibly huge. So, Brian, we're speaking the same language using different rhetoric. But I would agree. I think that there's a lot of people who are saying things that haven't actually gone through that process, and they're not providing the substance that we need, the food that we need.
Well, you sound like the type of person that when using such a phrase or teaching method, it's because you're going to be in a one-to-one, or you're going to be in a situation where you're actually going to follow up, apply, and help build it. A lot of people that use these myths have no ability to do that at all. I think about good things come to those who wait. I believe patience is good, and I believe spiritually, if you're waiting on the Father, or you're working through a position in your life to where you've done all that you can, now it's time to wait. Good things come to those who wait. But I actually say good things come to those who go out, plan, prepare, and execute. When we're trying to get something done, see, good things come to those who wait is not an excuse to sit on your butt and just hey, Lord, help me. He
Okay.
has asked us to get intentional. Have you done the work? Have you done the therapy?
Mm-hmm.
Have you done the prayer? Have you done the fasting? Have you done the calls? I mean, this applies everywhere, relationships, spiritually, in your
Oh, yeah.
business. Now, if you've done all of these things, guys, good things come to those who wait.
Yeah.
But if you are complaining and you've done nothing and you've not met and done date nights and done budget meetings and, I mean, as for me, not even being a married guy right now, I know what it takes now
Mm-hmm.
to do things right. I just don't know if I'm ever going to meet that person because it's weird out here, guys. But let me know if I'm doing something wrong. But I know that it takes that we're going to pray together. A lot of things that I've learned in the last couple of years of my life, whether it be business, spiritual, relationships, has to have a lot of work that goes into it. And if you've done that, good things are coming. If you've done nothing, you're just begging for favors. And I do understand that at times the Lord does bring favor. Sometimes, Mike, she offers you favor and vice versa. But a lot of times there's been a lot of work done for that favor that just happens to come at whatever day it comes. And so I agree. A lot of these things have particles of truth in them, but they also have a lot of fake inspiration. I was writing in that book one day, and I came up with this, and tell me if you guys think this is crazy, but I think people are always going to try to tell you or convince you what you're capable of or not capable of based upon their own talent, ability, and vision.
Amen.
And so that's why we have a lot of people all the time trying to tell you what you can and can't do. It's because they literally can't.
Yeah, they speak from their own personal
They
experience
speak from
and
their
ceiling.
perspective.
Yep.
A while ago, if I can do it, anybody can, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I can do and what you can do are different. Our capacities are different. Our sacrifice or willing to sacrifice levels are different. Mm-hmm. Our genuine, hard-working capabilities are going to be different. Our toughness is different. I want everyone to get to the top, but everybody's top's different. And for me, back in the day, my top was king of the world, top of the list, everyone knows my name, speak at all the stuff, which the Lord protected me from. My recruiter a long time ago, I got fired in the training, and it was way old school, so they just didn't quite yet have personalities like mine. I couldn't believe it in the company. But he gave me some really good advice. He said, Bryan, don't go do the speaking thing. I promise you within a couple years they're going to ask you to do it. And I never did it because, one, I didn't understand how to go speak about something that, like, I didn't truly understand. I thought a lot of it was just pretty simple anyway, but it's because we're all different. The things that I see that are easy, some people don't, and vice versa. But I'll tell you, the Lord watched out for me because I've watched person after person somehow end their relationship in the company because of doing that, because there's always someone in the room that doesn't like what you're saying and what you're doing. And so for me, I was protected from that. Instead, I've kept my mouth shut and gone outside the circle and just tried to feed into people wherever I can, because ultimately for now, this is a spiritual conversation. And I'm pretty sure that the sales meeting is not necessarily trying to hire up the spiritual conversation necessarily these days. So.
Oh, man, this has been fantastic.
Bryan, I love this. I believe that a miracle is just a shift in perspective. So thank you so much for shifting someone that is listening to this. There was some perspective shift. Maybe they just needed to hear a real, honest conversation. And I appreciate you jumping into this like head first and having this conversation with us. I loved it. If somebody wanted to follow, connect, learn more about what you're doing, your influence, your legacy out in the world, your son legacy, where can they follow you?
The link tree is probably the best. The link tree / call Bryan Smith is the best. But we're on Facebook. It's just Bryan Smith, BRY. There's only about 1,200,000 of them. But it's there, and Instagram and LinkedIn and all those places. So.
Yeah, we'll have it in the show notes below as well. So if you're listening, go down to the show notes, check it out. Bryan,
This has been a gift.
This has been awesome, man. Really have enjoyed this conversation. For all of you that are listening right now, as always, time and attention are by far our most important assets. I hope you're fired up after today's episode. Go out, make it happen. Appreciate you all. Bryan, thanks, brother.
Thanks, guys.